This is Coffee.
Morning.
That's Aaron. I'm Jericho. This is Coffee with the Summerland Kids coming to you live. It's
just two
June
kids
12th.
from Summerland decided let's start hanging out. I mean, we're miles and miles apart, yet we're right here virtually.
Yeah, we're right next door.
How tall is
so
this,
hey,
sir?
it's June 12th, 2024. The weather in Summerland today is 56 and a high of 70. And it's going to be sunny in Summerland today, as the namesake says. That's what's up. I guess
it's so beautiful that 70, the high of 70. I don't think we got a low 70.
I think we should rethink our game plan on the getting back to Summerland as a real time thing. But I think we need to live on the backside on Greenwell or something where we can have a little more land. We need some land, you know?
Oh yeah.
Uh,
I never thought of that.
Your,
just have a little ranch so I can bring my chickens.
That's not my cup.
Yeah, exactly. We want to be ranch friendly. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, that's the origin of the town anyway. Wasn't the guy a farmer?
Yeah, farmer,
a rancher or something.
Hey, do you want to refresh your screen? You're a little frozen.
I am in the Facebook right now, so sometimes it does that.
All right.
So maybe once I change the audience and close the Facebook.
Okay.
Did that help?
And if you want to grab your chompers too, I noticed you're missing your chompers.
I'm gonna get in so much trouble from the girlfriend, bro. I'm not gonna wear the choppers. I was playing hockey the other day, and the guy hit the puck.
Exactly.
Bam.
Aaron's a pro hockey player. So in the news today, I got the unfortunate news of a passing of a man who's in the realm of comic book historian. He's called a comic historian. He passed away in a car crash on June 8th. His name was Ben Potter. So Ben Potter was a guy who really immersed himself into the Marvel and DC universe on YouTube, and he had 3 million plus followers on YouTube. So he's very much a beloved YouTuber who retold stories of comics on YouTube. So bless you, Ben Potter, for your work in sharing the stories of the Marvel and DC universe.
The Marvel and DC universe.
That's huge. Marvel, yeah.
Are you getting audio from Stanley over there?
Yeah, I can hear him. But you're frozen still on your page. I'm seeing you frozen.
All right, let's refresh it.
Yeah, let's refresh it.
We're still going through this on level 4, but that's okay.
No, it's okay. We'll get there. We'll find the next sensation. We're at episode 48. So we're closing in on episode 50, which is amazing. And that's where we're at in terms of our process and coming live from Restream. So we're just, what do you say? We're at the mercy of the cell phone airwaves on my end, and on your end, your landline or whatever connection you have.
Yeah.
Yay to 50.
That's level 5, right? We got our viewer on Twitch already. Can you believe it?
Oh, that's awesome. Do you want to refresh your screen and do your little mojo magic?
Yeah, sorry, Twitch. We're refreshing. Stand by. We're having a little technical thing.
Okay. Woo! I think I'm live, but I don't really know. I'm Jericho Wagon. That's Aaron Riggs. He's refreshing the screen. That's my grandfather, Bill Wagon, behind me. And we are live on Restream, and we're doing our 48th episode. So here we are. Coffee with the Summerland Kids. Okay. Now you got movement. You're alive. Yeah.
I'm alive.
You're live. So in case they missed it, we lost a special guy on YouTube. His name's Ben Potter. I just became aware of him on the Denver news because he was a Colorado resident and he was a beloved YouTube guy. He had a beard, you know, and he loved Marvel and DC comics, and he made a YouTube channel, and he had like 3 million plus subscribers, and he was doing great with that, and he loved it. And he passed away in a car accident, a solo car accident. So, it's always sad news to hear of someone passing when they're way before their time, because I think he was only like 40 years old or something.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. So what was he doing? Did he just like go through the comics and retell the stories and tell some background?
Yeah, for sure. He did it very eccentrically and very fun. You know, so he would like, you know, Mary Sue jumped in the room and hit Spider-Man over the head with a brick, or you know, so he did a real sensational, viewpoint of it. And, you know, he had the traditional, I'd say, like a little home office surrounded by his, collection of comics and little toys and stuff. And he had his little microphone and in his chair. So he's definitely like a, standard YouTube type of format, I want to say, as far as presenting his work. But he definitely really focused on, and he probably attended, because Denver is big on the comic conventions. So, just like Los Angeles and San Diego with larger comic cons. So that's the comic cons are a great opportunity for people, of course, to meet in real time, real face-to-face stuff. And then someone like him, who's got that many subscribers, of course, people look up to him as far as his just his work, because his work was obviously loved by a lot of people. So, he got some good airplay on like major network news, Entertainment Tonight. So when you look up his name online, you'll see he's got quite a presence and quite a response from the community. It's interesting how nowadays YouTube is just like another channel, but there's thousands upon thousands of channels within YouTube. So it's pretty amazing how it's been brought back to us, like on our level. We're just, a couple guys hanging out, reuniting after 40 years apart after elementary school, and sharing our life and sharing our stories with the people, kind of like the Truman Show. Here we are. But there's many people that are taking it to different levels of success, like Joe Rogan, and of course Howard Stern is the old school, kind of like almost like the grandfather of what would you say, like radio news or something, or talk show.
Yeah, I remember way back when Howard Stern was, he had spent a lot of money to get that digital line into his office so he could have the internet, as far as being able to broadcast on the internet. I guess that was the T3 or the whatever. It was still through the phone line, but you had a bundle rather than just a single line.
Wow, that's cool.
And I remember that because I was doing the technology, doing the cable installs, and just before we got the DSL contract, and it was kind of a big thing to have the internet and have that connectivity as far as in that virtual space. And I like what you're saying. Sure. Like, I'm just trying to visualize this guy's podcast, because when you're reading a comic book, you see the picture, but how you explained it just briefly, he would describe the picture, right? So he would tell a story about what the picture is and make it fun and exciting, and using, probably a little bit of body language, a little bit of emotional expression in the voice. So that's really interesting,
It is interesting. It's a cool take on it. So it's like retelling a story that you just read. So he obviously, feels very passionate about it and has the knowledge about the characters before he gets into it. And then people that certain comic books, of course, are more famous than others. One that I remember was, I think it was called The Killing Joke, and it was a Batman and the Joker comic book, and on the back side it had a cool picture of I believe it's Batman and the Joker on a playing card. So it was some particular artists when they draw comic books for a company get special attention sometimes because maybe it's a special edition, and then also I remember back in the day when the graphic novels kind of came out and it became a little bit, like a next level in terms of comic book enjoyment, or because a graphic novel is more like a book. So it's like a thin book, but it's more substantial than just a comic book. So it was a way for the comic book industry to step up to a next level if they wanted to on certain occasions. And then, of course, you can get more money for a graphic novel versus a comic book. So,
Yeah. I mean, and it makes sense because, that's what I remember as a kid, kind of looking at these little short stories. And as we grow up, we want a little bit more depth in the story. We want these characters, like the Katie Keene character. There's lots of stories that are good, but it was the Katie Keene character that people were like, oh yeah, Kate, what's she wearing this week? Where's she at this week? Is she on the ocean in her bikini? Is she celebrating a wedding? Is she celebrating 4th of July or some other holiday? Is she on the runway in say New York in a fashion sense? And so it becomes almost more about the character than the story itself. I'm not discounting the story, but obviously you could take Batman and put him somewhere and people would be interested in what Batman's doing, regardless of Batman went to the beach and went surfing. Remember that one back in the day?
I know, like the Hollywood spin-offs were to us as kids were just amazing. I remember watching Spider-Man, and now looking back on it, it seems kind of cheesy, but it was very interesting to us as before we were 10 years old. I think it was the 70s, and we were watching these, Spider-Man on Channel 5 with actors, and it was just, campy, I think in the 60s, that's when Batman had that one show with Adam West and I think Adam West was Batman, and then Robin, I can't remember what his name was, but he's still out there. Robin is, I think, the Batman character, Jim, I think it's Jim, Adam West, I think he passed away, R.I.P. OG Batman, who played the original Batman in the TV show. So
I think you're right. I think it was Adam West as Batman, and I think about it too. And it's like, Superman. Everyone remembers Superman, and then they showed you Superman, and then later on they gave you the backstory. There was even a whole TV series I remember of when he was growing up, like in high school, and so you could take these characters and do the backstory per se. And like I've been following the Katie Keene fan club on the Facebook.
Oh, cool.
And like someone had commented, and I was like, just one of these posts to come up. There's a cool picture of the Katie Keene. And so I was like, man, it'd be cool if someone were to bring it back, but not in the modern age, but looking back at the 50s, almost like a new perspective of modern time, looking back on that time from our eyes. It's just a whole different spin on the story, yet we like Katie Keene. She's cool. We like, it's like me and you. Like, I mean, we have our story from when we're kids, but I'm interested in what's going on with Jericho, regardless of what's going on. I want to know what's going on, because Jericho's my friend.
Yeah, no, totally. We a little mini milestone yesterday. We talked to my cousin whose mother was in the Katie Keene comic book. His mom was Sis the Candy Kid. So it was basically Katie Keene's little sister in the comic book. So she was a main featured character. Pretty much always you're seeing Sis the Candy Kid, and that was my aunt basically in the comic book. Yeah. So Sis the Candy Kid was a young little girl who was inspired by my grandfather's daughter, Susie, my aunt, and thankfully my aunt kept the collection when my grandparents moved to assisted living. They lived alone independently till their high 80s. My grandfather might have been like 90 and still walking and doing great even at 90. But by that point, my aunt and my dad, they did move my grandparents to assisted living to live out their days, and it was they so they were fine with that. And so nonetheless, my aunt got the collection for the most part, my grandfather's office, and bless her heart, she kept the collection together. She gave some things to my father. I've then got the things from my dad and brought it back to the collection. So now we have the collection as one whole piece. And so right now, Jabra and I, Jason, are going through. We're going to focus on the comics, and we're going to focus on researching every single comic book. And thankfully, with eBay, on the eBay app, it has a little thing where you can touch the camera icon and take a picture of your item, and it'll pull up a seller or the list of what's on sale right now on eBay pertaining to that exact same comic book. So sometimes there's not a version available. Sometimes there is, but we'll find it on Heritage Auctions or a different website to get some idea of what the cost is, what the value is of the comic book. So it's pretty surprising how some of the Katie King comic books, especially if they're graded by the comic book grading company, they have sometimes a pretty substantial value.
No, that's good. You got that little video I sent you where that guy was kind of going over. I guess the topic was, is it worth getting your comic book graded? And I think that's a great way to go about it, because if you're looking at something and it's like, okay, this one's graded and it's worth 200, but this one's not graded and it's worth 60 or something. Is it worth putting that other 60 in, or is it worth just selling at $60? Do you put that extra 60 in to get the extra 50, or do you just sell it at 60? And I'm also thinking okay, so there's going to be some stuff that is available, but some stuff that you have in this archive, this collection, there is no other one. There are no original art, like you're saying, the bigger ones available. Yeah. There are no other copies of the fan art. And that tells a story. It's not just the comic book story within the comic book, but now as we're doing this, as you're going through this, there's the whole story around the comic book, the story of the artist, just like people are interested in, what's going on with Stan Lee. He becomes a character in the movie. He becomes a character that we are following. We're curious about. We want to know what's happening next with Mr. Stan Lee. And, that's kind of I think that's, just human nature. Humans, we've been telling stories for however long, even before, I guess, writing. We were telling, we were talking. We look at some of these like Aboriginal or Native Americans where they have these oral traditions, these verbal stories, and, call it mythology, call it unwritten history, call it what you will. Just because it's written down doesn't make it any more of a story, any more true or less true. I could write some stuff down, and I could say this is my story, whether it's a true story or fictional story or fantasy or whatever. It becomes the story. The story takes on a life beyond any character or any specific scene. And I think that's just a great, it's just human nature, I guess. Sure, we remember the Joker and when he went surfing and when he met the Penguin, but we want to hear the story of Batman. What happened? Why is he Batman? Oh, here's the story of when he was a kid, or maybe the personal side of Batman, the Bruce West story. I want to know about Bruce West. I want to know all the details. Tell me all the details of the story. Columbus. Let's just talk America and Columbus, and the Flag Day's coming up or whatever. The story. Yeah. Columbus sailed 1974 or whatever it was. I don't know. But he sailed the ocean blue and made it to America, right? Well, what about that one day when there was a big wave and one guy got knocked off and they saved him? What about that story? I want to know all the details.
Yeah, I know, and it's amazing how they're the retelling of stories, and then on the like with the Joker in the Batman story, how that movie with Joaquin Phoenix was such a good movie. I don't know if you've seen that one, but they're coming out with the Joker 2 soon, and they've switched out Margot Robbie with Lady Gaga. So Lady Gaga is going to be the Joker's, I think, love interest in this new version of the Joker 2, which is coming out soon.
So that just makes perfect sense, because why? Because I've heard the story of Batman, and I've heard that one time Batman and the Joker had this thing going on. Well, what about the Joker? How did he become the Joker? What's the Joker's story now? What's the the girlfriend? Joker had a girlfriend. What's her story? I want to know.
Exactly.
I want the story. Tell me a story.
Yeah, especially since I don't exactly know if she's playing Harley Quinn, but we'll see how that unfolds. And I thought Margot Robbie was a great Harley Quinn. She did a great job, and she had her own spinoff with the Suicide Squad and that whole thing. And they actually filmed. I think she produced and directed, I believe, her own movie there with Harley Quinn, Suicide Squad. I'm not super factual on that stuff, but I know that they filmed it on my street in LA. Some of it, on Wall Street.
That's super cool.
It was. It really hits home.
The story. Like, okay, so I'm here sitting with Jericho, and you're telling me this story, right, about how you're doing the archive. Well, then we get into the story of your grandpa.
Yeah.
We get into the story of the comic book character, Katie Keene, and the whole story of the process. And I'm excited about it. But here's something, Jericho. Of course, I'm going to throw a curveball sooner or later.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
And it's just another idea. Would it be something beyond your ability or beyond your desire to maybe continue the story? Another Bill Wagon. We're talking Katie Keene's story. We're talking the Wagon legacy story. How far beyond the realm of reality is it to maybe suggest that Bill Wagon Jr., Bill, aka Jericho, or Bill Wagon III, maybe do some storylines or some comics relating to or taking some of these ideas, these fan ideas of, like I said, this morning I'm reading through the Katie King fan book, and someone says, it'd be cool if they brought it back but kept it in the 50s. Now, how hard would it be for an artist, someone especially of your caliber, maybe, these big display artists, but to take it down into the comic strip, for you to say, okay, let me continue this story, or let me do a spin-off story of Katie Keene, the original Katie Keene, through the legacy of Bill Wagon Grandpa, Bill Wagon Jericho Jr., because that's what I see the fan club, they're interested. They want to hear stories. They want new stories. They want respins of the old stories. There's a TV show with Katie Keene that I'm hearing feedback, but I imagine, what if Jericho, who's gone through Grandpa's legacy, who has the archive, who has that knowledge inside of his soul, inside of his brain, or whatever you want to call it, to say, hey, I'm here I am. I'm an artist. I've been doing this different things for a long time. I'm going to try my hands at cartooning. Of course, I'm pushing you in a certain direction, Jericho.
No.
Cartoons. But how realistic is that? Is that a possibility?
Oh yeah, it's a possibility. I mean, my cousin yesterday said, it's like, how do we? He's concerned about the generation that was the fan base, the generation fan base, and how they, like my father's 82 years old. He was about the age of the fans. So some of the fans are in there, definitely, you could for sure say 60s, 70s, 80s, and even in the 90-year-olds age group, of which my cousin's concern is when you lose that age group, will the new generation be interested in it? You know, so thanks to Archie Comics, I gotta say thank you to those guys, because they have essentially relaunched it for a second in 2020 with their own artists and with their own vision, mainly around the TV show concept. And I believe what they did is they backed up the TV show with some new comics. So there was some new Katie Keene comics done in 2020. There was limited communication between myself and Archie Comics. We had one meeting, one sit down with let's call him Mr. Archie. It's John Goldwater, I believe. And it was an interesting breakfast meeting, and we were discussing the possibility of doing a documentary about my process of what I'm dealing with going through the archive. And then he told us his story of his father or his grandfather, who originally started Archie Comics with a partner, I believe, and their journey and their story. So I am interested in it, and I do kind of reflect on the possibility of we're just about to hit 500 fans on the Katie Keene Facebook fan page. We're close to 500 fans, which is a small fan base, I want to say. I know there's a much larger fan base out there, but they have to be communicated with, and that's a challenge. So I mean, I could see the potential of having like a full-time office that's focused on everything Katie Keene, essentially Bill Wagon, promoting the legacy work, promoting the new work, doing the new work. Like you said, creating on my end, I'd have to essentially probably, and it's been discussed quite a few times in terms of the copyrights and all that. There's a lot of I would say independent fans that are producing for essentially themselves, and they're basically creating content and selling it on eBay themselves independently. So whether it's a direct copy of an original and they've maybe printed it on some fine art paper and then they're selling it, or they just simply scan, copy, and send to a vendor that makes shower curtains and sells them at Walmart. So there's a kind of a cottage industry, if you will, just like, I think of the Grateful Dead and the parking lots of the Grateful Dead shows, where you can buy tie-dye t-shirts, memorabilia, different items that's not coming from the Grateful Dead directly. You have to essentially go into the stadium and buy a t-shirt directly from the what would you call it? The original, or the how do they say that when they're
a licensed vendor?
Licensed vendor. Like the licensing, correct, to do it correctly, you do a licensing deal with the Grateful Dead to get an approved license contract to produce Grateful Dead t-shirts. And then the Grateful Dead, then some of the living members get a little legacy paycheck, so that's where it gets interesting in the realm of that, because as the family, as we sit right now, I don't know where we truly stand in terms of copyrights and that technical stuff, but
maybe that's something your cousin can look into, because I mean that could be potentially huge money.
Line. I'm back, kinda. I'm frozen.
I got audio.
Anyways, just to wrap our show, this is another edition of the Coffee with the Summerland Kids. I'm frozen right now. I don't know why.
Well,
Can you
that's all right. Everybody smash that like. Today's sponsor brought to you by the Katie King Fan Club on Facebook. Show some support for
Your
Jericho.
audio's a little jacked.
You know, let's do this. You know, I would love to see the future, but I don't want to see it now. I want to see it later.
Shit. Doing a little glitchy.
That's all right, bro. All right, this has been Coffee with the Summerland Kids. I think we lost Jericho, but like Tigger always says, ta-ta for now. Smash that like, smash that subscribe, and we'll talk to you later.